Ashamed to glam. When a billionaire invites a black girl to dance at midnight in her old dress. In the heart of the city, where the lights flickered like hope and shadows whispered secrets, there was a party unlike any other. In a mansion that loomed over the landscape, glitzy and grand, the air was thick with tension. Celeste stood there, feeling like a moving painting in her old, faded dress. Who would even notice her? Outside the elegant ballroom, laughter and music spilled like molten gold. But inside, it felt like a different world, a vortex of wealth, beauty, and mysterious glances. Suddenly, the door swung open. Gasps resonated through the room, like a felt pulse. There he was, the billionaire, the enigmatic figure everyone knew, but only few dared to approach. He stepped in, a flash of tailored suit and a confidence that left the crowd breathless. His eyes scanned the room and landed on her. It felt surreal, like being thrust into a storybook, but without any page that told her what to do next. Celeste's heart raced, tight in her chest. Was it fear? Awe? Both? The crowd's whispers turned into a deafening roar as he moved closer. She felt small, out of place, the fabric of her gown seeming to scream its age while she stood under the spotlight of his gaze. A spark of excitement ignited within her. Could it be? Did he actually want to dance with her? But then, what would people say? The unspoken rules and layers of judgment felt like chains, tightening around her throat. This was no fairy tale. This was the real world, where he was the king and she was just her. And still, the thought of being chosen felt like a high-stakes gamble, a delicious thrill that made her stomach twist with anticipation. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The music shifted, wrapping the gathering in a captivating melody. As he extended his hand, Celeste hesitated, her palms cold and clammy. Time ticked away, each second pulling her deeper into the unknown. The crowd leaned in, eyes glued to the spectacle unfolding before them, each face reflecting a mix of disbelief and envy. Would she take his hand? The billion-dollar question hung in the air like a fragile thread ready to snap or be woven into something beautiful. Could she really say yes? Would this night carve her name into their memories, or would it be just another story, fading away like the last notes of the song? The ballroom pulsed with suspense, as Celeste took a deep breath, the weight of expectations crashing down around her. She felt the weight of every judgment and every unspoken word pressing against her chest. And then, amid the uncertainty, a flicker of resolve sparked. Was it finally time to step into the light? What would happen if she said yes? The possibilities danced like fireflies in her mind, illuminating a path she never dared to dream. And as she lifted her gaze to meet his, one thought raced through her. Was she ready to embrace her moment or turn back into the shadows? The moment hung, suspended in time, as if the universe held its breath. Celeste's heart thundered in her chest, a cacophony in the silence that wrapped around her. She could see his eyes, dark, deep, inviting. The world around her faded as she lost herself in that gaze. Then, with a mix of triumph and trepidation, she reached out her hand. The instant their fingers touched, a shock coursed through her, electric, intoxicating. It was as though she had crossed some invisible boundary. The murmurs of the crowd ebbed into a whisper, each person watching with a mixture of fascination and disbelief. As he pulled her closer, the intensity shifted. No longer an outsider, Celeste was swept into a sea of swirling silk and laughter. The music enveloped them, a vibrant pulse that resonated with her very soul. They stepped onto the dance floor, and it felt as if she shed the weight of her insecurities with each step. "Do you have a name I can call you?" he asked, his lips curving into a mischievous smile. A small chuckle escaped her, as she felt both shy and bold at the same time. "Celeste," she managed, her voice trembling but steady. "Celeste," he repeated, as if tasting the name. "It's beautiful. Just like you." His words wrapped around her like warmth, and she couldn't help but smile, a genuine smile free from the shackles of doubt. With each spin, he led her, his hands steady and strong. The whispers buzzed in the background like angry bees, but they faded into the rhythm of the dance, enveloping her in an exhilarating freedom. They moved together, matched perfectly to the rhythm, as though this moment was written in the stars. The crowd around them blurred in her peripheral vision, lost to the music and the security of the billionaire's presence. But then, just as she breathed in the moment, the unthinkable happened. A scoff erupted from the edge of the dance floor, slicing through the euphoric atmosphere like a jagged knife. "Look who he is dancing with now, the charity project." Laughter followed, cold and cruel. Celeste's breath hitched, and for a moment, her heart plummeted. Her confidence flickered like a candle in a gust. The heat of the spotlight felt unbearably heavy. Would this be the moment she faltered? Would she allow their spite to shatter the beautiful illusion? But he didn't seem fazed. "Ignore them," he said, voice steady and fierce. "You're dazzling." A small smirk danced across his lips, as if he found their disdain amusing, exciting even. That flicker of rebellion reignited within her, emboldening her spirit. As the dance continued, his presence began to drown out the negativity. She chose to immerse herself in this moment. The music swelled, drowning views stifled by elegant gowns and gold-encrusted decanters. Just as she felt herself soaring, laughter erupted again, this time fueled by more than contempt. It felt conspiratorial, shrouded in something darker. The air thickened with tension. Celeste's heart raced anew, the thrill now mixed with fear. What were they plotting? What more would they do to disrupt her night? Moments later, a figure emerged from the shadows, one she recognized. Her heart dropped. It was Taylor, the socialite known for her venomous whispers. The room quieted as she stalked towards them, leaving a trail of frozen expressions and gasps behind her. Celeste's blood ran cold. The night was turning, and her heart raced with dread. Did Taylor bring more than her sharp tongue? Suddenly, she felt a squeeze on her hand, a steady warmth anchoring her as Taylor approached, each step a promise of chaos. Celeste's mind whirled with questions. What would Taylor say? How would she retaliate? Could this surreal night end in shambles? The dance floor stayed alive with energy, but Celeste felt the tremors of uncertainty ripple through her as the danger approached, poised to break the delicate spell. Would she stand her ground or find herself crumbling beneath the weight of judgment? As Celeste prepared to face the music, her mind swirled with one piercing question: what was coming next? The tension built like a storm cloud, swirling with electric anticipation as Taylor drew nearer. Celeste's breath quickened, each inhale crisp with dread. She could feel the shifts in the air, the crowd holding its breath, waiting. Would they cheer or jeer? How would this night unfold? "Look who we have here," Taylor purred, her voice dripping with false sweetness. The laughter faded into an eerie hush, like a predator stalking its prey. "Isn't it adorable that you've found a friend?" He remained unfazed, standing tall beside Celeste, a mountain of confidence. "She is not just a friend, Taylor. Her name is Celeste. And she is enchanting." Celeste's heart lifted at his words, but the flutter was short-lived. What would Taylor come up with next? She could sense the venom in her gaze, the sharpness of her smile designed to cut. Oh, how charming! Celeste, such a pretty name to match a pretty face, Taylor mocked, her lips curving into a smirk. "But tell me, how does it feel to be the charity case?" The girl who gets to rub elbows with the elite for a night? Each word was a dagger, slicing deeper into the collective surprises of the onlookers. A wave of heat rushed to Celeste's cheeks as whispers surged around her. The laughter that followed was a tide pulling her down, threatening to drown her in embarrassment. She opened her mouth to respond, but the words tangled in her throat like broken glass. Enough. The billionaire's voice boomed, cutting through the chatter like a knife. You think you can belittle her? I invited Celeste here tonight because she is captivating. Something you wouldn't understand. His eyes fired daggers at Taylor, as though daring her to say more. But Taylor wasn't finished. Captivating? Please, you just like the idea of rescuing the downtrodden. You think it's charming to have a dance with a charity case? She stepped forward, fueled by the attention and the scent of wickedness that clung to her. You think a quick spin on the dance floor can change the way people see her? Celeste felt her resolve shift. Something inside her stirred. She wasn't charity, she was Celeste. As laughter floated through the air, it transformed. It was no longer directed at her, but rather at Taylor's empty attempts to belittle. She was not an outsider. She was a player in this game. I wasn't invited here to be your subject of ridicule, she said, her voice steady, strong enough to hold the attention of the crowd. I'm here to live in this moment, to dance. So if you think you can shake me with your words, you're mistaken. The crowd buzzed, their eyes darting between Taylor and Celeste as if awaiting a dramatic finish. Wow! Look at her go! Someone on the edge of the crowd shouted, igniting a wave of murmurs that sparked from one end to the other. Back off, Taylor, the billionaire said, his voice turning firm. You've lost your grasp on this party. Just because you wear a crown doesn't mean you can dictate who gets to shine. Pushing against Taylor's disdain, Celeste felt the adrenaline course through her veins. With each beat of the music, every indifferent eye turned away from her toward Taylor's fading presence. She felt herself rise. Confidence surged like heat in her chest, igniting a fire ready to burst. With a final twist, she smiled at the man beside her. Shall we? He returned her smile, the very essence of support. They launched back into the dance, every step electric, carving a new path away from fear and onto a journey of triumph. Celeste's heartbeat thrummed in sync with the music, drowning out the last remnants of Taylor's laughter. But just as she lost herself in the dance, the dim lights flickered ominously. Suddenly, a hush fell over the crowd, replaced by gasps and whispers. Celeste's heart dropped again as she turned, scanning the room. Someone had just pushed through the crowd, eyes wild, urgency written across their features. What is it? She thought, pulse racing, a new fear gripping her gut. What news could snap her from this fleeting victory? Was this a signal for something darker? Or perhaps a warning? The night twisted yet again, and Celeste could hardly catch her breath. As the music thrummed away, reality crashed back and the night was far from over, and the chaos was just beginning. What revelation awaited her beneath the shimmering surface of this glamorous charade? The sudden hush wrapped around Celeste, stifling her breath. She turned, searching the crowd for clarity. The figure pushing through the throng was a familiar face, Sophie, one of the wait staff. Fear radiated from her eyes, like wild flames, forcing Celeste to recoil. Sophie! What is wrong? Celeste called out, her heart pounding in her chest. Sophie's voice trembled as she drew closer, but it was the urgency on her face that held Celeste's attention. You need to leave, Celeste. Right now! The world around her seemed to tilt, and Celeste exchanged a glance with the billionaire, his brows knitted in confusion. What is going on? It's Taylor. She is not just playing games, Sophie breathed. There is something much darker. I overheard her talking about a scheme. If you're here, it could get dangerous. She has people watching. Celeste's stomach twisted into knots. The victory she had felt moments ago evaporated in the cold grip of reality. She stood at the edge of a precipice, and all it took was a single push to plunge into darkness. Dangerous? Celeste echoed, the quiet tremor in her voice betraying her. What do you mean? They're planning something. I'm not sure what, but it involves you. You being here isn't a coincidence. Sophia's breath caught. You need to trust me. We have to go. Now. The billionaire took a step closer, eyes narrowed, absorbing what Sophie had said. But the party, forget the party. Sophie snapped, her fire growing amongst the dread. If we don't act now, you could be their next target. A shiver slithered down Celeste's spine. She looked back at the dance floor, the sounds of laughter and music now a sinister backdrop. The fields of joy began to morph into shadows. The same people who cheered her could turn on her in a heartbeat if Taylor rallied them. Let us go, Celeste, the billionaire urged, concern etching deep lines on his face. We can figure this out somewhere safe. Celeste hesitated, the whirlwind of emotions crashing within her. She had dreamed of this night, but what was it worth if it meant walking into danger? As the lights flickered again, a chill settled into the back of her mind. Fine, she finally breathed, searching the crowd like a fleeing deer. But where do we go? Sophie grabbed her wrist. Follow me. I'll show you a way out. The trio dashed towards the dimly lit corridor, the weight of eyes watching them heavy in the air. Murmurs flared like sparks behind them, but Celeste couldn't turn back now. She nimbly navigated through the shadows, the once lively atmosphere now a strange and haunting maze. Just as they reached the exit, the door swung open with a crash. A group of guests flooded in, and at the forefront was Taylor, eyes blazing like a malevolent predator. Now, where do you think you're going? She sneered, a cruel smile curling on her lips. Fear clenched Celeste's heart like a vice. There was nowhere to run. Celeste! The billionaire shouted, lunging forward as the crowd began to close in. In that moment, everything narrowed. The cheers turned into a menacing roar, and Celeste felt the walls closing. Would she fight, or would she flee? A larger truth loomed, threatening to upend everything. The night changed as the ambience thickened with animosity. The stakes ratcheted higher, and every second weighed heavy with choice. As the crowd pressed forward, Celeste's pulse quickened. The choice to stand her ground or to escape loomed before her like a gaping mouth hungry for chaos. The thrill of the night unspooled in those fleeting seconds. But then, through the crowd, someone else emerged, someone she had never expected to see. A face from her past, one she had thought was gone for good. What secrets would they unearth? What connections did they hold? Was this the twist that would seal her fate? The dance of her dreams had turned into a tangled nightmare. The room spun around Celeste, chaos competing with the pounding of her heart. She could almost hear the thundering footsteps of the crowd closing in, a cacophony of mingled voices that turned the air heavy and sinister. And then, there he stood, Dante, his dark eyes piercing through the shadows, a haunting reminder of the past she had fought to escape. Her breath caught as memories flooded back, each one sharper than the last. What was he doing here? What did he want? Celeste, Dante called out, his voice firm yet urgent, slicing through the panic. You shouldn't be here. I've been trying to find you. Find her? Taylor laughed, a cruel glimmer in her eyes. You mean to rescue her? She doesn't need saving. She just needs to know her place. Fury surged through Celeste's veins as she grappled with her tangle of emotions. Disbelief, anger, and a strange flicker of hope at Dante's presence. It had been years since she had seen him. But was he friend or foe? Get away from her. The billionaire stepped forward, a protective wall between Celeste and the advancing danger. His stance was defiant, but she could see the uncertainty flickering in his eyes. Look at this little rescue mission, Taylor mocked, ignoring the billionaire. You think it's going to end well? You don't know who you're messing with. Dante remained unwavering. I know more than you think, Taylor. His gaze shifted to Celeste, vulnerability etched in his features. We have to get out of here, Celeste. The longer we stay, the worse it gets. She could feel the tension crackling between them, a precarious balance between the familiarity of the past and the uncertainty of the present. She wanted to trust him, but trust was a luxury she couldn't afford right now. Ignoring Taylor's warning, she blurted out, "What do you mean? What is going on? Why would she want me?" Dante took a step closer, but the crowd shifted, blocking his path. "It's deeper than you realize. Taylor has a plan, a dangerous one. It involves the company and you." A wave of nausea hit her. The company she worked for, the one she had thought was rising to greatness, was entangled in dark schemes set in motion by the very people who were supposed to support her. Before she could process the implications, Taylor snapped her fingers, signaling behind her. A rush of movement surged as shadows closed in on all sides, their whispers filled with menace. "Time is up, Celeste. You either come with me or find out what happens when you don't listen." Taylor's grin promised nothing but trouble. "Remember the last time you thought you could run?" Dante's voice was low, but it held an urgency that pushed against the tide of chaos. "This isn't just a party. It's a trap." A raw, visceral fear settled around Celeste, thick and nearly suffocating. She could feel her options slipping away. To confront Taylor might mean standing against an army of retribution. To escape with Dante felt like walking into the unknown. But right at this moment, the weight of indecision strangled her. "Celeste, please," Dante said, desperation in his tone. "We don't have much time." The air grew colder, the crowd pressing in like a wave ready to crash. But as she stood there, the choice crystallizing in her mind, she could hear the faint sound of sirens in the distance, like a beacon of hope amid the storm. Could escape remain possible? With her heart racing, Celeste made her decision, but just as she opened her mouth, an ear-piercing scream erupted through the throng, halting everything. What was that? The room froze, a jarring jolt amidst the chaos. Would they all be forced to confront the terror that lay ahead, or would it bring a reckoning deeper than any of them could foresee? The night had taken a dark turn, and the real game was about to begin. The scream sliced through the air like a knife, catching everyone off guard. Celeste's heart thundered in her chest as she turned her head sharply to locate the source. The crowd froze, confusion rippling through the mass of people. Faces turned pale, eyes widened. Someone had collapsed on the floor. A woman, dressed in shimmering gold, lay sprawled, her gown crumpled around her. Celeste's stomach churned as she noticed the growing pool of crimson beneath her. Time seemed to stretch, every second feeling like an eternity. "Call for help!" someone shouted, breaking the stupor, but Celeste's mind was racing. This wasn't just a freak accident. Her instincts screamed at her. Taylor had orchestrated this chaos. She could sense it in the way Taylor's eyes glittered, a predator watching its prey. "Dante!" she gasped, her voice barely above a whisper. He had been right. They needed to get out now, while the attention was diverted. But how? The crowd was still reeling from the shock, yet she could feel Taylor's gaze boring into her, calculating. "Stay close to me," Dante urged, casting nervous glances around them. In that moment, he was more than just a name from her past. He was her anchor in the storm of madness that had enveloped them. But before they could move, a group of men in dark suits surged forward. They fanned out, their presence intimidating. Celeste's breath hitched. Who were they, and what did they want? Taylor stepped towards the fallen woman, taking her time with exaggerated ease, as if savoring the chaos around her. "This isn't our fault," she declared, her voice dripping with feigned innocence. Perhaps she couldn't handle the excitement. After all, not everyone is cut out for this world. Everything is your fault," Celeste shouted, anger surging within her. The words tore from her mouth, raw and unfiltered. She didn't care how dangerous it was to confront Taylor. "You did this." Taylor's smile turned chilling, revealing a glimpse of a twisted mind. "Did I? Or did you simply forget your place, dear?" There was a menace in her tone that sent chills racing down Celeste's spine. "Celeste, let us go now." Dante's urgency broke through her fury. The flicker of possibility was dwindling, and they had to be quick, but the dark-suited men had started to move in their direction, eyes hard as steel. The sirens outside grew louder, but rather than bringing hope, they felt like a death knell. "Get back," one of the suited men growled, a harsh edge cutting through the chaos. Suddenly, bodies were thrashing, an explosion of limbs as panic erupted. Some rushed towards the door, while others surged back, clearly confused about what to do. "Dante!" Celeste yelled, turning to him. "What do we do?" He grabbed her wrist, pulling her close. "We blend into the crowd, but we need to find a way out." Their hearts raced in sync, and for a moment, the noise felt distant, drowning beneath the roar of adrenaline. Celeste could feel the heat of his body next to hers, grounding yet electrifying. Together, they pushed through the chaos, slowly inching away from Taylor and the looming threat of those men. But the closer they got to the exit, the more restricted their path became. The room was a labyrinth of bodies, and the exit felt farther away with every attempt to reach it. Just when hope began to slip, she spotted a side door leading into the darkened hallway beyond. "Over there," she shouted, pointing with urgency. But just as they turned, the hallway door creaked open, revealing another figure stepping through. Sharp features, illuminated by the dim light, left her breathless. It was her boss, the last person she expected to see. Fear flashed in his eyes as he caught sight of the scene unfolding behind them. "What is going on?" he demanded, taking a step toward them. In that moment, everything started to unravel. Secrets hung in the air, and the night promised far more than any of them could comprehend. Would she reveal the truth, or were they all caught in a web from which none could escape? As Celeste looked into her boss's eyes, she realized the dance was far from over. Panic swelled around them as the crowd jostled in uncertainty. Celeste's heart raced, and the tightly controlled chaos felt like a tide ready to swallow them whole. She took a step back, trying to pull Dante with her, but he was frozen, eyes locked on her boss. "Boss, you need to get out of here," Celeste shouted, urgency dripping from her words. "It's not safe." "What do you mean? What is going on?" He glanced over his shoulder, his face pale, the hints of terror creeping in. Before she could answer, the suited men closed in, moving with an unsettling precision. Just beyond them, an eerie calm seemed to hover over Taylor as she surveyed the scene, satisfied and ever so calculating. This was her world, and she was in control. Dante gritted his teeth, dragging Celeste back into the crowd. "We have to move now." He pulled her elbow, leveraging her panic into action. But the exit was a swirling vortex of fear. Shouts echoed, and the sound of heavy boots thudding against the marble floor sent jolts through her. As they pressed through the crowd, Celeste felt the weight of eyes on them, inquisitive glances mixed with the apprehension of bystanders who didn't know whose side to take. "Where are we going?" Dante whispered, his warm breath brushing against her ear, grounding her momentarily. "Back towards the kitchen," she replied, desperately scanning for a way through. "There's an emergency exit near there. We might be able to slip out." In that instant, her mind raced back to the kitchen's layout. Familiar walls and bustling chefs came to mind. Their faces were a mixture of fear and confusion, just like hers. It had been a long time since she felt comfortable in that part of the building. "Keep your head down," she prompted sternly, leading Dante away from the chaos. They maneuvered through the bodies, ducking and weaving, heartbeats hammering in sync with each step. But suddenly Celeste's foot caught on a stray heel, and she stumbled, crashing into a table laden with half-finished cocktails. Glass splintered and ice scattered like little bombs bouncing off the floor. Gasps erupted around them, and Celeste felt her cheeks heat with embarrassment. "Just go," she urged Dante, desperate to blend with the other panicked guests. They needed to keep moving before someone recognized them. Dante grabbed her hand, pulling her forward. "Don't let go." As they sprinted, the noise of the crowd dimmed, drowned out by the pounding roar in her ears. They plunged through a doorway leading into the dimly lit kitchen, the clatter of pots and pans clanging like alarm bells in the silence of their rush. "Where is the exit?" Dante shouted, breathless. "Over there, to the left." Celeste pointed, her heart pounding as they darted toward the flickering emergency light. They approached the door just as a group of dark-suited men burst into the kitchen, their movements sharp and dangerous. "There they are!" one shouted, a bolt of adrenaline shooting through Celeste. With no time to think, she grabbed Dante and yanked him through the door, slamming it shut behind them. The emergency exit led them down a narrow corridor, the sound of their frantic breaths echoing off the concrete walls. But safety was a mirage, and Celeste could feel the press of time crumbling beneath their feet. She glanced back. Shadows loomed at the end of the hall, closing in as the light flickered overhead. What now? Dante's eyes were wide, filled with uncertainty and fear. "We can't go back. We have to keep moving." With every instinct screaming at her, Celeste pressed on, feeling the weight of the world resting on their shoulders. But the hallway stretched indefinitely ahead, dark and foreboding, leaving her to wonder, would they find safety, or was this just a momentary escape before the real danger struck? As they reached the end of the hall, a chilling thought gripped her. What if the emergency exit led them right back to Taylor's waiting arms? The night still held many secrets, and not all would be forgiving. "Dante!" she breathed. "Do you trust me?" The uncertainty in his gaze spoke volumes, but the resolve set in their shoulders was unshakable. Together, they braced themselves for whatever lay on the other side. The door creaked ominously as Celeste pushed it open, the rusted hinges protesting against their hurried escape. Light flooded in, momentarily blinding her as she squinted into the unexpected brightness. A narrow alley stretched out before them, the air heavy with the scent of rain-soaked concrete. "Is this it?" Dante gasped, scanning the grim surroundings. The alley seemed desolate, the shadows cast by flickering streetlights momentarily pitting their hopes. "I hope so," she replied, stepping cautiously onto the slick pavement. Fear coiled tightly in her chest, pulling her thoughts too far into the darkness. "But we have to keep moving." They wouldn't be far behind. They glimpsed the flicker of headlights in the distance, an approaching car that somehow felt like the last nail in their coffin. Celeste pulled Dante deeper into the alley, merging with the shadows. Voices echoed from the block away, and she pressed a finger to her lips, urging silence. "Who are they?" Dante whispered urgently, his brows knitted with worry. "The same ones who made this night hell," she muttered, her voice barely above a whisper. As she peered around the corner, her stomach churned. "They're here." Before she could finish, the unmistakable sound of fast-approaching footsteps echoed in the alley. Panic surged through her, and she grabbed Dante's hand, pulling him further down the dark passage. "Celeste! Over here!" A harsh voice called, deep and menacing, making her blood run cold. The suited men flanked the alley, eyes glinting cruelly in the half-light. She turned hard, determination bubbling up within her. "We need to find a way out." The alley split into two paths at the end. One led towards the light of the road, the other into a darkness so deep it seemed to swallow whole all hope. The right choice could mean freedom, but the wrong one would lead right into the hunter's grasp. "Which way?" Dante stuttered, panic echoing in his voice. Celeste's heart raced. She knew time was running short. "We need to trust our instincts," she urged, scanning both routes. The fear of death screamed in her mind, but another thought flickered in her heart, a faint hope. "Left," she yelled, tugging him toward the darkness. They sprinted into the shadows, the world behind them fading away, the pounding of their hearts in sync with their hasty footsteps. Inside the murky darkness, the air thickened, stinging her lungs and slowing their pace. They stumbled over littered debris that crunched beneath their feet. "Wait," Dante rasped. "What if we know?" Celeste interrupted. "No stopping. Just keep moving." Tension hung in the air, a suffocating blanket. Celeste felt it prickle the back of her neck like icy fingers. She turned quickly, catching a glimpse of a figure trailing behind in the distance, the faint outline of acknowledgement someone was following them. Their surroundings changed abruptly as they emerged from the alley and into a courtyard bathed in unnatural light. An unkempt fountain gushed in the center, while the walls loomed high, trapping them further. "No way out." Dante's voice trembled. They looked around, searching for any possible escape route, but walls surrounded them like an impenetrable fortress. A predatory voice broke through their despair. "You've made it this far." Taylor stepped forward, flanked by her men, a smirk twisting her lips. "But this is where it ends." The night air shifted. It felt charged, heavy with impending confrontation. "Why are you doing this?" Celeste shouted, desperation flooding through her. She grasped Dante's arm tighter, the fear evolving into a fierce determination. "Because everything in my world must remain intact," Taylor replied coolly, eyes blazing like ice. "And you're nothing but a threat." "Maybe," Celeste shot back, the surge of adrenaline morphing her fear into fiery resolve, "but I'm not going down without a fight." The moment hung there, electric and tense, anticipation coiling like tightly wound springs, ready to snap. Just as Taylor stepped closer, a loud crash resounded. The ground shook beneath them. Dust cascaded from the heavens, and in that instant, the world turned upside down, leaving Celeste gasping in shock as the tower's structure began to tremble ominously. "Run!" Dante cried, pulling her away as chaos erupted around them, leaving them with a single, burning question: could they escape this time? As barriers crumbled, Celeste knew this was just the beginning of a battle that would test everything they believed in, and she was ready to uncover her truth one way or another. The rumble grew louder, drowning out everything around them. Dust whirled in thick clouds, and Celeste felt her heart pounding so violently it threatened to tear free from her chest. The world spun in a chaotic blur as she and Dante stumbled forward, scrambling to escape the crumbling walls that loomed like dark giants about to swallow them whole. "Where do we go?" Dante shouted above the cacophony, his voice laced with desperation. The courtyard had transformed into an imploding nightmare, and confusion clouded Celeste's mind. "Anywhere but here," she screamed back, her instincts kicking in. Instincts that had kept them alive this long. They spotted a dimly lit hallway at the far end, and without a second thought, they raced toward it, hearts synchronized in fear and urgency. The ground beneath them cracked, flinging up debris as if the very earth sought to reclaim what lay above. Celeste felt a tug at her sleeve, glanced back to see one of Taylor's men pushing through the debris with a furious determination. Rage ignited within her, fueling her speed as she pulled Dante along the narrow passage. "Keep going," she urged, knowing that looking back would only weaken their resolve. The hallway narrowed around them, walls closing in as they pressed on. Flickering lights overhead cast eerie shadows that danced like demons in pursuit. Celeste's breath came in shallow gasps, each inhale laced with the metallic taste of panic. She could almost feel Taylor's cold gaze, a lurking predator waiting to strike. Just as they reached an old wooden door at the end of the hall, Dante hesitated. "What if this leads us straight back to her?" Do you have any other ideas? Celeste snapped, her voice sharp with urgency. We can't just stand here. Without waiting for an answer, she hurled the door open, and it creaked loudly in protest. They stumbled inside, a forgotten storage room filled with dusty crates and aged relics from a long past time. The scent of mildew mixed with dampness assaulted her senses, but they didn't have the luxury to linger on it. Look for anything we can use, Dante urged, his eyes darting frantically. They began to rummage through the room, shifting boxes, hoping something could give them an edge, a weapon, a tool, anything. Celeste's hands fumbled over rusty old tools and broken furniture until her fingers grazed the smooth metal of a long rod. It felt heavy in her hand, a sense of security flooding in as she gripped it tightly. Dante, here! She called out, turning to show him what she'd found. But as she turned, panic gripped her gut. Dante stood frozen, eyes wide, staring at something behind her. What? She snapped, her heart racing faster than ever. Celeste's voice barely broke a whisper, a sense of dread coloring his tone. Slowly she turned, and her stomach dropped. The door they had entered through was swinging back on its hinges, revealing Taylor and her men, their faces twisted into predatory smirks. Thought you could escape so easily, did you? Taylor taunted, her voice dripping with malice. Celeste's mind raced. The shadows behind Taylor moved, closing the gap. Dante, we need to. Before she could finish, the door slammed shut behind them, plunging the room into silence and the darkness that felt alive, swallowing the light whole. Celeste felt suddenly cold, fear snaking through her veins. Don't let them take you, she heard Dante murmur, as the shadows crept closer. What do we do? She said fiercely, determination hardening her resolve. But deep down, doubt crept in like cold fingers. Just then, there was a loud crash from one of the crates, making both of them jump. In the chaos, a figure stumbled out. A woman dressed in tattered clothing, dirt smeared across her face, appeared as if from nowhere. Her eyes were wild but alive. They're not who you think they are, the woman screamed, her voice frantic. You need to get out now. But would this stranger lead them to safety or deeper into danger? As the walls around them trembled once more, echoing the turmoil in Celeste's mind, she knew they had to make a choice. Trust the stranger or risk everything they had left? The stakes were higher, and every second counted. The dust and chaos still hung thick in the air as Celeste swallowed hard, glancing between Dante and the stranger. Time seemed frozen on the razor's edge, balancing fear and hope. Why should we trust you? Celeste demanded, her heart racing. The woman's eyes darted nervously, searching for clarity in the frenzy. Because I know what Taylor is planning. You're caught in a trap she has woven, and your only chance is to slip away before it's too late. Trap? Celeste echoed, a chill creeping down her spine. How do you know? Before the woman could answer, the metal door behind them rattled, and shallow breaths accompanied every panicked heartbeat. The shadows were shifting, ready to consume them whole. We have to move, Dante urged, gripping Celeste's arm tightly. The woman snapped her gaze back to the door, then back to them. This way. She darted toward the back wall, moving a half-empty crate aside to reveal a hidden door that swung open with a creak. I've been trapped here too long. Follow me if you want to survive. Without hesitation, Celeste turned to Dante, her eyes pleading for support. He nodded, determination locked in his expression. She darted after the woman and squeezed through the narrow opening, Dante hot on her heels as they plunged into darkness. The air grew cooler, musty scents swirled around them, and narrow beams of light from above peeked in like fragile threads of hope. They stumbled forward, the sounds of chaos muted behind them, but danger always felt close. Where are we going? Celeste panted, glancing back over her shoulder. Out of the mansion. Trust me. Just keep running, the woman replied, urgency pushing her forward. Taylor is relentless. She doesn't play fair. They emerged into a cramped corridor, the air lighter, but the tension still thick. Celeste's heart raced, each pulse echoing her steps. Could they really escape this nightmare? Suddenly, the distant rumble of footsteps surged like a warning siren behind them. "They're coming!" Dante shouted. "Just a little further." The woman glanced back, real fear evident in her eyes. "There's a service exit we can reach, but we need to be quick." Pushing onward, they zipped through the hallway, passing flickering light fixtures that swayed ominously like the weight on their souls. Each step felt like a countdown. The longer they lingered, the closer their pursuers drew. "We can't stop now," Celeste insisted, dread clawing at her chest. "Don't look back." Just when they turned a corner, they froze as a group of suited men emerged directly in front of them, eyes glinting with malevolence. Time slowed as they registered the three of them. "Turn back, little mice," one taunted, stepping forward with a sneer. "You think you can escape?" The air hung heavy, yet Celeste's hope flared. "Not without a fight," she growled, gripping the metal rod tighter, channeling both fear and the power within. But before they could retaliate, a gravelly voice cut through, swift and sharp. "Stand down." It could only belong to Taylor. "Let them go." The group hesitated, uncertainty replacing their aggressive stance. Taylor appeared from the shadows, her lips curling into a twisted grin that sent shivers down Celeste's spine. "Why should we, Taylor?" One man sneered at her. "They're nothing. Just two foolish kids in over their heads." "Enough," Taylor snapped, stepping towards them, her gaze fixed on Celeste. "Celeste, I'm done playing games. You don't belong here. You were never meant to rise." Unexpectedly, rage burned within Celeste, igniting a courage to stand her ground. "I'm here because I deserve to be," she shot back, breaking free from Dante's side and stepping forward. "You won't cage me any longer." The group tensed, Taylor's confidence faltering at the sight of her unexpected defiance. "You think this is just about you?" "No, it's about all of us." Celeste pressed on, the rod a steady anchor in her grip. "You have no power over us." Just then, the faint sound of sirens crescendoed outside, echoing through the prison of the mansion. The suited men exchanged uneasy glances, redefining the stakes of this confrontation. Taylor's facade cracked just slightly. She stepped back, fuming but calculating. "You don't get to have the last word." With adrenaline thrumming in her veins, Celeste turned, grabbing Dante's hand once more. "We go forward. Now!" Together they bolted toward the service exit, their hearts compelled by urgency and raw defiance. Taylor's scream chased them as they burst through the door and into the dim light of the moonlit night. They raced down the exterior steps, breathless, the air filling their lungs like a newfound freedom. As they burst outside, the cool breeze felt electric, knocking them into a reality of survival. They could hear the distant commotion of sirens getting nearer. "Look! A car!" Dante pointed to a vehicle pulling up, its headlights illuminating their escape route. "Get in!" Celeste shouted, yanking the door open as the driver swung around, confusion etched on their face. They climbed inside just as footsteps thundered behind them. The driver, sensing the urgency and tension, didn't hesitate. "Go! Now!" With a roar, the car shot away from the curb, leaving the chaos behind. As they sped away from the mansion, Celeste turned to Dante. "Are we safe?" "For now," he sighed, blowing out a breath that released the tension of fear binding them. "But this isn't over. Taylor will come after us." Celeste nodded, her heart racing as the city lights blurred by. But she had found strength in the night. "We'll be ready." Their hands intertwined over the gearshift, a silent agreement of support and unity. What seemed like a nightmare had ignited a spark of something new: courage in the face of danger, friendship forged in fire, and a newfound path emerging from the shadows. In the fading distance, the mansion stood tall, a specter of the past. Celeste's heart swelled with determination. She knew this journey was only just beginning, but together, they would unravel the mysteries ahead, and she would no longer allow fear to dictate her future. She would rise, stronger than before, ready to face whatever battles loomed on the horizon. Now, as they drove into the unknown, a smile broke through the tension. This was just the beginning of Celeste reclaiming her story, one courageous step at a time. Don't just watch this ending, be part of the journey. You need to subscribe now, and hit that bell so you don't miss exclusive stories like this one. Smash that like button to show your support. Your engagement is what keeps this community alive. Flood the comments below with your reactions and theories. Let us talk about what this all means. And finally, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this incredible conclusion. Don't wait even one more second. Let us keep the story going together.